Okay, let's start. Here says affirmative sentences. Remember, we're talking about the past simple, que es el pasado simple. Vamos a recordar cuál es la conjugación. This is an example, says, Michelle got up at 7 o'clock last Monday. Got up, se levantó. And this is the order. First, we have the subject, which is Michelle. Then we have the verb, the main verb in past tense. And then here is part of the complement, and at the end is the time expression in past, last Monday, el lunes pasado. Se levantó a las 7 el lunes pasado. Entonces ese sería el orden de las oraciones afirmativas. Let's check some other examples. We also use the past simple with a definite point in time, like last week, when I was a child, yesterday, 6 weeks ago. These are some of the time expressions we can use with the past simple. Example, we saw a good film last week. Last week is the time expression, so is the past of the verb see. Another example, yesterday, which means ayer, I arrived in Geneva. She finished her work at 7 o'clock. I went to the theater last night. Last night es anoche. Entonces, estas palabritas que están en negrito son los verbos en pasado. And as you can see, so is an irregular verb, arrived and finished are regular verbs, and went is also irregular verb. These are examples of affirmative sentences. And as you can see, the conjugation of the verbs is the same with all the person, with all the people. El so va a ir con I, con you, he, she, it, we, they. Esa misma conjugación, acuérdense, es para todas las personas, no cambia aunque sea tercera persona del singular, no hay problema, es la misma. Other time expressions are the other day, ages ago, a long time ago. Acuérdense que ago es hace mucho tiempo, hace años, hace 6 semanas. Y esto se refiere a un tiempo indefinido. People lived in caves a long time ago. She played the piano when she was a child. Okay, una notita, the word ago is a useful way of expressing the distance in the past, into the past, and is placed after the period of time. Este va a ir siempre después del periodo de tiempo. A week ago, 3 years ago, a minute ago. A diferencia del español que decimos hace un minuto, hace 3 años, hace una semana. En inglés, pues va a ir hasta el final la palabrita ago. ¿Ok? This was about affirmative sentences. Aquí lo importante es aprendernos a vernos los verbos en pasado, ya sean regulares o irregulares. Let's continue with the negative sentences. Example, Diana didn't study for her exam. It's pretty much similar to the affirmative. The difference is the auxiliary. Okay, the auxiliary for past is didn't. Siempre va a ser didn't con todas las personas, con I, you, we, he, she, they, etc. ¿Y qué observamos con el verbo study? ¿Está en pasado? No. Cuando usamos el auxiliar didn't, nuestro verbo queda en su forma base. Aquí dice verb in simple form. Entonces, no lo conjugamos prácticamente. ¿Por qué? Porque ya está el auxiliar. El auxiliar ya me indica que mi oración está en pasado. Here we have some examples. Aquí con el verbo be. They weren't in Rio last summer. Cuando usamos el verbo be, ya no usamos el didn't. El solito es su auxiliar y su verbo principal, por así decirlo. Entonces, no vayan a escribir they didn't weren't. No, it doesn't exist. It's they weren't in Rio last summer. No estuvieron en Río, se refiere a Río de Janeiro, el verano pasado. Ahora sí, el resto de los verbos sí utilizan didn't. We didn't have any money. We didn't have time to visit the Eiffel Tower. We didn't do our exercises this morning. Ahora, en este último ejemplo, es el mismo verbo en auxiliar y en verbo principal. El que tiene el significado de hacer es el verbo principal. Aquí solo está como auxiliar, no tiene significado, solo indica que está en pasado la oración. We didn't do our exercises this morning. Now let's continue with the interrogative form, the questions. Let's start with the closed questions or yes/no questions. Did you go to the cinema? Here we also use the auxiliary. This is the auxiliary for the questions. It's at the beginning of the question. Then we have the subject. Then we have the verb in the simple form. We do not conjugate the verb. Why? Because we have the auxiliary. And then the complement. Did you go to the cinema? More examples. Did she watch TV yesterday? Possible answers. Yes, she did. Did is the auxiliary. We need to start the question with did, then the subject, then the verb in the base form. No lo conjugamos tampoco because of the auxiliary. And the answer, yes, she did. El auxiliar de la respuesta debe coincidir con el de la pregunta. ¿Vio tele? Sí, sí vio. Prácticamente es lo que están diciendo. Did they go to the mall? No, they didn't. Did I study for an exam 2 days ago? Yes, I did. The auxiliary, the subject, and the main verb in the base form. Did you visit your friends last week? No, I didn't. Here we have a question with the verb to be. Cuando usamos el verb to be, no usamos did, acuérdense. Él solito. Were you at school last night? Estuviste en la escuela anoche. Eso es lo que está preguntando. Acuérdense que el verbo be puede ser o estar. Tiene dos significados. En este caso es estar y en pasado estuviste. ¿Ok? Were you at school last night? Yes, I was. Aquí obviamente pues es diferente. No vamos a poner yes, I were. Because the conjugation of the verb to be with I in past is was. Was your mom at home? ¿Estuvo tu mamá en casa? No, she wasn't. Wasn't. Okay, so these are some examples for yes, no questions. ¿Por qué se llaman yes, no questions? Because the answers are yes or no. And finally, we have the open questions or the WH questions. What did you do? ¿Por qué se llaman WH questions? Porque empiezan con una question word. In this case is what. Then we go with the auxiliary verb, which is did. Then the subject and the verb in the simple form, do. What did you do? ¿Qué hiciste? Aquí ya no respondemos con sí y no, sino no, pues vi tele, hice mi tarea, oraciones afirmativas o también puede ser negativas. No hice mi tarea, pero sí vi televisión. Examples. What did she do yesterday? O sea, esta pregunta de yes, no, la estoy convirtiendo a information o a WH question usando el what. What did she do yesterday? Primero va la question word, auxiliary, subject, verb in simple form, and the complement. Where did they go? Where? Did they go to the mall? Where did they go? ¿A dónde fueron? When did you study for your exam? What's the meaning of when? ¿Cuándo? ¿Cuándo estudiaste para tu examen? Who did you visit last week? Who. Acuérdense de who, quién. ¿A quién visitaste? Who did you visit last week? A question with the verb to be. Where were you last night? El where de pregunta y el where del verbo to be en pasado suenan igual. ¿Dónde estuviste anoche? Why was your mom at home? ¿Por qué estaba tu mamá en casa? Why was your mom at home? And that's it.